Hello, this is Fear Dragon coming at you with another StarCraft 2 netcast. Today we have game number 2 between LGIMMVP versus VortiX from IEM. This is game number 2, so go ahead and watch game number 1 if you haven't already. This is a best of 5, I believe. It might be a best of 7, but I'm pretty sure it's a best of 5, so go ahead and watch that anyways. But if you have seen game number 1, you'll be excited to see game number 2. Let's go ahead and introduce these players. Spawning in the top right-hand corner of Antiga Shipyard, we have the blue Terran player. He won the last game. That puts him up 1-0 against his opponent. He has a little bit of leeway to do what he wants now. Let's see if he can keep it up. His name is MVP. And his opponent, spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Antiga Shipyard, as the red Zerg player. He's currently down a game, so he definitely needs to make something happen to come back against this monster of a Terran player. What is his strategy going to be? He's the breakout player. Let's see if he can take another game off of this top-notch player. His name is VortiX. Again, VortiX and MVP showing some great play in that last game, and oh my god, what is this? MVP being a little bit sneaky. I'm really curious how much he's committing to any kind of aggression over here. It looks like this barracks is a little bit of a proxy, but it might actually just be a little bit of a tactic to try and scare VortiX into maybe overreacting. If you cannot find the barracks, you might be thinking, oh shoot, is he proxy 2-raxing me? What is going on? But of course, MVP just building it over at his natural. It looks like VortiX actually has a pretty good sense of what is going on and actually sees right over here that that barracks is over there. Gonna feel relatively comfortable knowing that, hey, okay, it's possible that he's using it as a little bit of a proxy location, but it's more likely just there to try and mess with my head. And as long as I don't let it get to me, should be fine. Don't overreact. You can see he's continuing to drone up. And does have that spawn pool going down. Not going to do anything drastic like cancel this, as he might have if he was not able to find that other barrack or that first barracks. And now we see, of course, MVP showing that it was just a little bit of a mind game to play, and a really pretty sneaky one. Is going to go ahead and lift out that barracks and complete that wall off while he goes ahead and throws down that expansion. So definitely favoring that kind of fast CC, fast expansion plays. Now we'll end up seeing when exactly MVP decides to grab these two gas geysers. That is going to be a little bit indicative of whether he's going to stay on barracks play or whether he's just going to go ahead and go straight for the factory kind of play. As we saw in the last game, he really decided to favor that reactor Hellion play, which is not too much of a surprise considering he really popularized that and really kind of made it the standard for TVZ. And we do see that there is this little SCV. He's going to go ahead and run his heart out over home with those little blasters. You can see those blasters definitely helping him a little bit as he is pretty much managed to stay at the same speed as those Zerglings, but those Zerglings able to get in a couple attacks. Now, as long as MVP does not click him again, I do believe the SCV gets home safely, but it looks like it doesn't matter as VortiX decides just go ahead and grab the Zalnga Watchtower and do a nice little bit of poking around. I love this. VortiX was doing this in the last game as well, as he was just kind of taking these very roundabout scouting paths, making sure that nothing funky is going on with any kind of proxies or whatnot. I absolutely love it. Now, actually, even positioning that Zergling over at the third base, that's going to give him some nice potential future scouting information. Now we do see VortiX deciding to lay down that creep tumor, connect those two bases. Very important, especially against that kind of Hellion harass that can go on. But we also see 3 queens already out. Let's go ahead and see. Actually, no, 4 queens already out. I was about to say, if you decide to go for that 4 queen style, that you know, is really not seen all that often as far as I'm aware. It's very, very effective though against helping to defend against any kind of big Hellion harass. It allows you to get up that creep spread insanely fast, and with that insanely fast creep spread, you can definitely go ahead and grab this third insanely fast. Now we do actually see that reactor Hellion style build already going down. We already see those 2 gas geysers being made, and that command center for the third actually already finished up. So MVP definitely going to be looking to play an even more intensive macro game than the last time. And just putting on a little bit of pressure, trying to cut down a little bit of the creep spread from VortiX. We'll end up seeing how much damage these 2 Hellions can do. And in the meanwhile, this Overlord actually spots everything, even sees the tech lab and the 2 additional barracks going down. So Vortex is going to feel pretty comfortable, minus the fact that he was temporarily supply locked. And even going to be able to start spreading that creep out a little bit. And I actually love this play, going ahead and getting those 2 Evolution Chambers. He knows that beyond these Hellions, there's not going to be a whole lot going on, considering he also, I think he caught wind of, no, actually he did not catch wind of that 3rd expansion. Although he did have that Zergling there, so he might have. I'm not entirely sure, but still, Vortex can be able to get those upgrades, and at the same time, use these to start doing a little bit of a wall off that he can potentially block off these Hellions from doing any kind of damage by using those queens that he got earlier on. But unfortunately for him, that does leave these creep tumors a little bit exposed. We'll end up seeing whether or not MVP decides to start utilizing those scans, but no, for now, it looks like those creep tumors are able to spread out at their own will and volition. So definitely going to feel pretty happy about that, but 4 Hellions going to come in, could at least force a couple of scans, which is definitely going to be very nice. In the meanwhile, we do see all the gas geysers being taken for Vortex, so he's definitely going to be able to do some nice teching up once that layer finishes up. It's about halfway complete, and in the meanwhile, we do see that Baneling nest kind of getting close to finishing up. But at the same time, we do see that starport building for MVP. Looks like he's going to be going a little bit more biocentric rather than in comparison to the last game, where we went for that very odd unit composition of Thors, Banshees, and a couple of Siege Tanks, and then some Hellions. And really an interesting style of mech. As opposed to this, which you can clearly see is generally more bio-focused, would be likely seeing a couple of medevacs being produced. There they are, actually, before any kind of anything else will really be produced. Not that he would really need any of those Vikings until he sees any kind of threat of Broodlords. Now we do see this one little Zerg going to go ahead and pop his way in over here. See that there is this 3rd base already taken, and also see that there is no 2 gas guys taken. That's not too big of a surprise. But in the meanwhile, let's go ahead and take a look at the upgrades, and we do see +1/+1 starting to research for MVP. But of course, Vortex did grab those 2 Evolution Chambers pretty gosh darn early, so that's allowing him to get that +1/+1 melee attacks actually. So going to be very interesting to see what Vortex decides to do. It looks like he's going for a very similar composition to the last game, even starting off with those 4 queens, going for that Zergling Baneling mix while getting that Spire. Wouldn't be too surprised to see him not get an insane number of Mutalisks. Kind of like last game, just get a couple to harass. Oh my god, look at this creep spread. These 3 queens actually are able to get all the way over to the Zelnaga Tower just because the creep spread is that ridiculous from these 3 queens. And even keeping those queens, of course, over back at home for those larva injects is going to be very useful. But now we do see a drop going down from MVP, 2 medevacs worth of Marines, so that's going to do a lot of damage if a Vortex is not careful. Now we do see, wow, a great surround from Vortex, but a great pickup from MVP that's going to allow him to get away with these 2 medevacs relatively safe. But he is going to go ahead and see that there is this 4th expansion already over here. He's going to go ahead and take that out, and that's definitely going to have to get canceled. There it is. And Vortex is going to have to go ahead and find a new 4th expansion, or at least, oh, actually, first he's going to have to go ahead and defend against this. Now this Overlord did spot it, and the Mutals are out, so that is going to stop him from being able to retreat very easily. But now we do see that these Banelings and these Zerglings are making their way back. A couple of Marines do get a couple of kills on a couple of drones, and there's just a lot of things going on. But these Mules are able to clean up all of the medevacs and the Marines. Fortunately for MVP, these Hellions do manage to make their way back over with just 1/2 health Hellion, clearly with his Death Wish. Just wants to make sure that there is no 4th expansion being retaken over there. Is going to be pretty nice for him to kind of halt the taking of that 4th expansion if he does opt to do it over there. But in the meanwhile, we do see that Infestation Pit going down, so likely going to be seeing a very fast tech to Broodlords coming out of Vortex. So we're going to have to see how Vortex decides to play this out, as he is taking that 4th base in the middle. And hold that thought, actually a massive number of Marines getting caught a little bit out of position by those Zerglings, but still able to make it out with that stim. And they're going to be able to heal up with those 2 medevacs and a couple of Siege Tanks to back them up. But we're going to have to wait and see if Vortex is going to go ahead and commit to any kind of aggression over there, as this 4th base is a little bit later than he maybe would have liked. You also have to remember, this 4th base is going to be very vulnerable unless he can put on some kind of aggression, see some kind of map control. It looks like these Mutals are just going to be used for that map control, keep MVP in his base as long as possible, allow him to get up that hive tech, allow him to get up those Broodlords that will aptly be able to defend that center expansion. That's going to be very important for Vortex to keep in mind. Now we see these Mutals just kind of poking around, moving around, maybe trying to catch a medevac or 2 off guard that was looking to do any kind of drop play. But in the meanwhile, we can see that the medevac is actually on the bottom right-hand corner. Shh, don't tell him. Don't tell Vortex. As we do see, actually, Vortex is starting to get that creep spread down over there, and that will be useful once he does get it over there. But unfortunately for him, he has no word or wind of this for now. Fortunately for him, though, he does have 2 sparring crawlers. That is going to be a little bit helpful to defend against that any kind of drops over that 3rd expansion. In the meanwhile, we do see MVP kind of sieging up a little bit, trying to push his way over to the 4th expansion, but these mules are going to make it very difficult, as well as these Zerglings and Banelings. And of course, just that creep spread. Now, we did see that medevac. He is making his way down over here. Looks like he wants to drop 3rd in the perfect location. Looks like he knew exactly where those spine crawlers are. And in the meanwhile, he's going to move up with a couple of those Marines on Fungal going down, picking off quite a few of those Marines, forcing a stem back. But unfortunately for Vortex, he does not get to react in time to this drop over here. And now we do see a couple of drones did get killed. We do see just not a whole lot, just down to 12 worker kills for MVP. But unfortunately for MVP, he is going to get that medevac picked up. Eventually is going to be the word for Vortex. He does not want to delay as he sees MVP moving out across the map, going to be sieging up this 4th expansion. This is exactly what I was talking about. Oh my god, he's actually opting for the Ultralist, but in the meanwhile, we see a massive Banelings hit on all of those siege tanks. The Marines not quite able to run back with that fungal aggression, but unfortunately for MVP, the siege tanks get cleaned up by those Zerglings. And wow, a fantastic engagement for Vortex. I was kind of doubting his position and being able to defend that center expansion without the Broodlords, without the Ultralists or anything. Try and take up to that Hive Tech, but unfortunately for MVP, he might have been thinking the same thing and was actually completely wrong, just like I was. Ended up losing his entire army. Looks like that creep spread really working out well for him. MVP even holding that kind of depth in siege tanks aggression in the push. Unfortunately for him, though, the creep spread was just too freaking good, and he was not patient enough to wait for all that creep to dissipate. He kind of started sieging up on that creep, and that really went in Vortex's favor. And now Vortex is going to have that 4th expansion ready to be able to mine anytime he wants. And the meanwhile, MVP is going to just be rebuilding that 4th expansion. It's going to put him into a bit of an awkward situation, just having lost a lot of his army. And in the meanwhile, Vortex is pretty happy exchanging armies, considering he is now able to repopulate with those Ultralists. And Ultralists, even though people, mainly Zergs in my opinion, tend to complain about how bad those Ultralists are. Ooh, doesn't want to lose his Mulist though. But people complain about how bad those Ultralists are, but honestly, if you can get them on the right map, they can be very effective. And in a big open area like this is exactly what I'm talking about. Look at how many siege tank shots they are exactly tanking, and it allows those Banelings to move in, get them great shots off on those Marines. And unfortunately for him, it looks like it's not quite going to be enough in those Marines and Marauders. Those Marauders especially going to be very useful at trying to take out a lot of those Ultralists. And unfortunately for Vortex, it's going to put him a little bit behind, and actually he's starting to dwindle quite a bit behind in that supply. So it looks like Vortex might have actually made a bit of a mistake going for those Ultralists. We'll end up seeing how well he can start handling any kind of aggression the MVP is now starting to put out as this 4th base is under siege. I'm not sure that Vortex is going to be able to save it, as it looks like he's running a couple of Zerglings in, but it doesn't look like he's even going to try and save it. He realizes that he's basically lost that base. He's just going to go ahead and go for some kind of counter aggression afterwards, after he morphs in a couple of those Banelings, maybe try and take out this army, re-seize control of the map, deny this 4th from MVP, and maybe try and make a bit of a comeback. We do see a couple of Marines making their way out, trying to do as much damage as possible. They are relatively well spread out, but a couple of Banelings do manage to clean them up. An okay-ish trade for MVP. But those infestors are starting to pop once again. Now, Vortex losing all of those infestors in that last engagement, I have to say, was a huge thing. And really, the infestors are the things that you want to keep alive in through the engagement. Even though he did a good job keeping a lot of those mutalisks alive, he really hasn't had to reproduce any of these mutalisks for I don't think most of the entire game. But, you know, he hasn't been able to make a whole lot of use of them. He's been able to do a little bit of poking prodding, but hold that thought. The Zerglings are coming in, and so are the Ultras. The Ultras taking a lot of damage, but look at this glorious spread from MVP. He's going to be able to do such a good job as tanking so much of that damage from those Zerglings, forcing them to take us so much fire from those Marines and from those siege tanks. It looks like he's able to clean up that push easily. Now we see MVP taking a 60 supply lead, and that's actually going to be too much, so Vortex is going to go ahead and GG. That puts game number 2 into MVP's favor, so very well played. IEM MVP versus, or At IEM MVP versus Vortex, we're seeing a 2-0 lead for MVP, and we're gonna have to wait and see if the comeback player, or sorry, not the comeback player, the breakout player, Vortex, is gonna be able to take out at least one game off of MVP, as he is very, very close to being eliminated from this match. So we'll end up seeing that in game number 3. Hopefully you guys enjoy this. If you did, please go ahead and subscribe, like the video, leave a comment below saying what you liked about it, or even what you didn't like about it. If you hated the video, feel free to click the dislike button. It's all good feedback. Just please, if you do click the dislike button, leave a little bit of feedback saying what you disliked about the video, or my commentary, or anything, audio quality, whatever. And also, very important, I love casting not just the pro level plays, but I also really like casting your guys' replays. So please send your replays that you want casted to feardragon64@gmail.com. That's enough babbling out of me. Let's go ahead and jump into game number 3. I'm really excited to see who ends up winning this. See you guys.